Everything old is new again. America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, bark like a dog for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
The 2-1 pitch. There's a fly ball hit out to left. Waiting is Jones. The Mets are the world champions. Gary Koosman being mobbed. Look at this scene.
Welcome to Everything Old is New Again. Listen to this scene over here when we are going to be talking to and continue our discussion with one of the heroes of the 1969 Mets, and he's written a book that's just a lot of fun. It's a great book to of course read and to hold on to as a timepiece to give you an idea as to what it was like to be on the 1969 Mets. Ron Swoboda continues talking with us. He's written a book called Here's the Mets, and it's a memoir of the Miracle Mets and more. I remember those days distinctly as a kid, watching the Mets play in the afternoon, their playoff games, and they would reel in to the school a television set, and that was the planned action, let's say, for the afternoon. We'd finish our spelling and our math, and it was time for the Mets game. We'd watch the beginning of the game, get on the bus, and rush home. We'd have our transistor radios with us. Remember those? And we'd put that in our pocket on the way home. We'd be listening to the game on the radio, which was amazing fun with all the kids in the bus. So, I mean, America, it was had a little bit different then with respect to baseball. Baseball was close to our hearts, real close, no matter where you lived. I've talked to people all the way from New York to California, everywhere in between, and people remember this 1969 team. It is just a blast to spend some time at Ron Swoboda. And we talk more than just about the Miracle Mets. This book is a memoir of the time and place as well. So you got to get involved with this book. Here's the catch. Ron Swoboda gets into more discussion of putting this in the place in history where it should be as to what was happening in the 60s and how all the players got involved in different ways, and certainly how Mr. Swoboda went overseas, visited the troops with Joe DiMaggio, and there's just so many great stories in this book. Comes right at you, and we'll be talking about that with Ron Swoboda right here, right now. Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again, Ron Swoboda. What did it mean to you personally to win this apparently unachievable goal?
You know, what a sense of completing the circle. I always like that illusion of completing the circle, going from a bad outfielder, a guy that had a lot of problems adjusting in the outfield, to a guy that makes the catch of his life, at the absolute balance point, the fulcrum of a World Series, and a Mets team that lost 100, with regularity in the beginning, and that's where I started with the team, and you come back and you win 100, and you not only complete that circle, but you go from, the laughing stock where, you're losing, a team that still has the gold standard for 120 losses in a major league season. That is the gold standard for ineptitude. And I went from playing for Casey Stengel, who managed that team back in '62, that lost 120, and we win 100, and we win a World Series. If we don't win that World Series, you imagine how everything changes in our world, the guys that were on that team. You're just, the also-rans don't get celebrated. Right. And maybe the Here's the Catch book would not be selling the way it's going to be selling, because this is a great book. Maybe there's no book.
Exactly. I didn't want to go that far with it, but
I think you're absolutely correct. And it was like, I had a friend here, who was encouraging me to write some of these stories down, because over the years in front of Kiwanis clubs and Rotary clubs and other organizations, business groups here in New Orleans and in New York, I was telling, you're always trying to collect stories and tell them and try to tell them well. And over the years, I had a friend saying, you need to write some of this stuff down, and I was not compelled to do that. I was, I just wasn't. And he said, look, if you don't get this together by the 50th anniversary, nobody's going to care. And I went, I get that.
Yeah, it makes sense. Coming out in the year 51, it kind of loses the panache,
I don't
right?
think so.
Well, it's a great book, and then you take a look and you just touch upon it a smidge. I wanted to dig into a little bit of Joe DiMaggio. You were with Joe, with the Green Berets, and there was an event there that you say he would never have forgotten. You didn't forget. But what was he like under, I guess you could say, under the trying circumstances of being in Vietnam there in the USO show?
Well, they took pretty good care of us.
Right.
But when Joe was over there, we were with Bowie Kuhn, who would become the commissioner of baseball. This was before he took over the job, but he was heading towards it. And we were at a fire base somewhere in Vietnam where they had these big I think it was big long cannons, that 150 millimeter. I forget the actual 120 millimeter. Howitzers. Okay. And they had this sort of fixture on the end that kind of redirected the gases sideways, and they had these cannon down in these pits that they had pushed the dirt up around them, revetments that protected the cannon and its crew, and they fired out of there. But you started walking up on top of this dirt revetment, and Bowie Kuhn was doing that, and they fired, one of the cannons for registration, and the sideward gas just knocked Bowie Kuhn, who was pretty rectitudinal is a good word. He was kind of stiff upper lip and straight up and down spine. That thing blast caught him and knocked him butt over tin cups down this revetment. And Joe and I were on the other side watching this and went, that was pretty funny. We never forgot it. I every time I saw Joe at the Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital old-timers game we used to have in Hollywood, Florida, we'd always go. You remember that? And he always remembered it. Joe was an amazing guy, and he didn't need to be in Vietnam. He was Mr. Coffee back then.
Right.
And he had to almost remind these guys that he was one of the best players who ever played the game.
How about that? It's just a bunch of amazing stories in this book. By the way, you mentioned Hollywood, Florida, and the show. Near the Diplomat Hotel, the Attaché Hotel in that general area?
We did.
And do you remember the Attaché?
Yeah, I do.
This is really inside. We used to spend a couple of vacations there. What a great little hotel. Doesn't exist anymore. I don't know why I'm mentioning other than...
we stayed there for one of the old-timers games.
How about that? That's another thing we have in common. There we go. Here on Everything Old is New Again. We're having a great time with Ron Swoboda. We'll be back right after this for one more section and really enjoy and dig into who the players that he played with, played against, what were they like, maybe some ratings of best, worst. We don't know. We'll see. We'll join Ron Swoboda in a few minutes right after this. Just as a little tease here, Dave Marish says, welcome to the heart of America. Ron Swoboda takes you into the clubhouse and through the season of this 1969 Miracle Mets. It was Swo's miraculous outfield catch that sealed the deal as the Mets upset the heavily favored Baltimore Orioles in a thrilling World Series. His typically honest and heartfelt memoir introduces you to the people inside the uniforms and the game inside the game. Once again, here's the catch. Ron Swoboda. You can get that on Amazon right now. We'll be back on Everything Old is New Again right now.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home.
Hello, everyone. everyone. I'm Dee Dee Servino, co-author of Pinot Pasta and Parties, along with your favorite good fella,
Paul Sorvino, and we are here to tell you that you should be listening every day, all day long. Wake up to it and sleep with it. Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, this is Alan Alda, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Holy, great interview! Hi, this is Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman. You're listening to Douglas Viviani and David Cohen's fabulous radio show, Everything's Old is New Again. To the Batmobile, citizens.
This is Bernie Coppell, also known as Siegfried from Get Smart. You are listening to Everything Old is New Again. You understand? Good.
Hi, this is Paul McGann, the 8th Doctor, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Casey Stengel. Casey, Gentry certainly lost it fast, didn't he?
Yes, I think that he was getting a little too excited this time. He's anxious to win. And, of course, being that many runs behind, they have to tell that the hitter was just irritating him and all to try and make him throw that ball over the plate. But they were told to wait out. Now the dangerous part is it's a wonderful pitcher going in. He's a young man. The idea is with 3 men on bases, can you throw a strike? Now, if you can't throw a strike, you're in bad shape now.
Here's the great Casey Stengel. He's a piece of work, boy, I'll tell you.
Total original.
He really was. And when I was a kid, I hate to bring him, this is just so personal to me, that my grandparents lived in Florida half of the year, and he got a Casey Stengel autograph at one point also, and brought that home to me. And boy, maybe it was, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 years old, just didn't know who this fellow was at all, you know? And he was one of the least revered signatures, but now, you know, it holds a special place because I got to know and learn all about this gentleman who was really a piece of work, you know?
Yeah, Casey Stengel, what an amazing face. You know, he was craggy, like somebody took his face off a Rushmore, you know, but in there were these blue eyes, deep blue eyes, and they were young and they danced, and when he smiled, his face was, you know, I mean, it was a huge grin, and he was an authentic living legend, I felt like, and the privilege was to be around him, and actually the half season that he managed me in 1965, my rookie year, I hit 15 home runs for Casey Stengel, and I never hit 15 home runs in any whole season after that.
Now, do you think, I don't know, this is an odd question, but because I'm a novice when it comes to this, I mean, did he have an effect upon you to guide you through those 15 and encourage you or help you with that, or was it just, you know, a byproduct of him being there?
His theory then was he needed somebody to go play, and he said, you can't learn how to hit these guys sitting there on the bench. You got to go up there and face them. And you know, I went up there as a young hitter, pretty good fastball hitter, and I thought I had pretty good instincts as a hitter. I had pretty good training. What I didn't have was I didn't really understand the mechanics. If I had done a better job of learning the mechanics, I might have helped my offensive numbers a little bit. But Casey ran me out there and let me play, and I made a ton of mistakes and caused him a lot of agita, I'm sure, but he gave me my first chance, and I'll be grateful forever for that.
How about that? And, you know, you say in this book that, again, talking about 69, the most people, including Tom Seaver, the leader of the team, thought that in 69, you had a chance to do well, but, you know, Hodges says, well, maybe, you know, 85 wins is achievable, and that everyone agreed, for some reason or another, that the St. Louis Cardinals, who had Bob Gibson and Steve Carlton on the team, you know, were going to be the ones that were really going to be your real trouble here, and meanwhile, you were able to overcome that. Now, Bob Gibson, I mean, you saw him pitch, boy, he was the son of a gun, you know, and I just wonder when you faced him, what was that? It had to be, no matter what you like or don't like about your own skills, he had to intimidate you when you got to that plate, huh?
I thought Bob Gibson, you barely, I don't know about other guys. This book is from my perspective, and my perspective on Bob Gibson was if he walked in a crowded room that I was in today, all these years later, my bowels get a little loose because I just remember going up against him, never feeling comfortable, never feeling sure, and just scuffling to try to get a piece of the ball, and he didn't want you to hit a foul ball. He was the most seemingly angrily aggressive pitcher I ever faced. Period.
And he did not want to come out of the game. He did not want anybody talking to him.
Oh, no, and he was in a hurry. I told somebody he wanted the ball back. He wanted to get you out. He wanted to shut you out in about 2 hours. That'd make him happy. He pitched like a guy who was double parked with a gallon of ice cream in the trunk.
An old-time great. How about Steve Carlton? I believe on the same team, lefty, more of a curveball pitcher. How'd you fare against him? And that's some team, these two.
He had a good curveball, but don't forget, he threw hard.
Yeah.
He was a power left-hander, and had a slider he had come up with later on. And the crazy thing is, I didn't hit him very well. Nobody did.
Right.
But we go into St. Louis in 1969, late in the year, and we got a makeup game. It's a one-game series, and I had gone down to the batting cage. They were one of the few stadiums back then that had a batting cage with Ralph Kiner, one of our broadcasters, who was a pretty good right-handed hitter in his day. And I just wanted to, I just wanted to get my feet under me a little bit as a hitter. I wasn't feeling all that good. And there was a machine. He fed me a bunch of baseballs through this machine, and we just talked our way through, and he said, get your hands back a little bit, how's that feel? And I said, that feels good. Okay, take a couple of hacks, and he said, that looks good, how does it feel? And that feels good. And we approached it from that standpoint, and I went into the ball game feeling pretty good, and Carlton is out there having the best day of his life. And he strikes me out the first time, but I feel like I'm swinging the bat okay, but he's got otherworldly stuff. I go up the next time, they got a 1-0 lead, there's a man on base, he gets 2 strikes on me, and I hit a fastball upstairs in left field for a home run. We're up 2-1. Next time up against him, he strikes me out, but I still feel like I'm having, I'm feeling comfortable up there, and they're on top of us 3-2 now, and I get up my 4th time, he gets 2 strikes on me, and I hit a slider over the left field wall for a home run, a 4-3 win, and he's striking out 19 guys, which was a major league record back then.
Right, but
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's the game of baseball, isn't it? I mean, the hardest thing to do, hit a ball at 95 miles an hour with a round bat, right? I mean, it's just
it doesn't make sense.
Exactly. What does make sense though is Tom Seaver compared to these two, and if you will, Seaver and Koosman were able to transport and help the pitching staff, of course, in '69 over those two. So it's not all pitching, that's for sure. It had to be teamwork, and I would suggest that if you're looking to see a team, quote or capital letters, team play and win, that would be your team of the '69 Mets. I mean, there's a few stars, if you will, but for the most part, what a great ensemble of players that looked out for each other and picked each other up, and apparently, you tell me, were the definition of a team.
Yeah, we didn't have superstars back then, and the interesting thing is you don't choose the team, but the success of a team and how you work your way through a season, that's how you forge anything that approaches teamwork and a sense of team. And I think Hodges was part of that with the platooning and how we were able to evolve as that season moved along.
And speaking of moving along and teamwork, we need to take a break here for our teams of sponsors and have them put their 2 cents into our conversation here. Then when we get back, I do want to talk a little bit more about Cleon Jones, who I think may have been a little bit underrated and was one of my favorites. I had sent to Cleon Jones boy, let me see, this would be 1970 when I was 8 years old, a postcard, or probably was a letter to Cleon Jones via Shea Stadium. And believe it or not, I don't know, maybe 3-4 weeks later, I got back a picture with a signature on it, postcard size, from Cleon Jones himself, with my name on it, thanking me for the letter and the note. And from that point on, boy, I was sold. I had, let me see, whose autographs did I have at that point? I had Danny Frischella, which is a reliever in the 70s. I had, of course, Ron Swoboda. I had Cleon Jones and Art Shamsky, and I had later on gotten Dave Kingman. I also had Ed Kranepool autograph. Later on, I got Bud Harrelson the same way. So this team, off and on and throughout the years, was available. They were out and about, or if you wrote to them, they'd write back to you. They really were America's team before America's team had the Atlanta Braves in quotes there, because I don't believe they're America's team. We had the 1969 Mets. They were a New York team, but they also were a team, I believe, that America took under their wing, especially during the World Series when Ron Swoboda made that catch. Remember that catch when you, put it in your mind there and think about World Series catches. There's, let's see, I would say Willie Mays over-the-shoulder catch and throw. I believe that was off of Vic Wertz, and I believe that was in 1954 off the top of my head. Could be wrong. Any other catches that you remember in the World Series? I don't know. It's got to be Ron Swoboda. It's got to be number 2, if not number 1. Inches from the ground, the ball was caught in right field off of Brooks Robinson. And, boy, did that turn that game around. And there's a quote here from the book. Here's the catch, Ron Swoboda's book that is labeled A Memoir of the Miracle Mets and More. Brooks Robinson himself says, I really believe the ball I hit would have changed everything. If Swoboda had missed it, it's a triple and maybe 2 more runs score. But he made a hell of a play, and he's written a hell of a book, and that's true. This book is great. Takes you behind the scenes. It's got some great photographs, but it also takes you behind the scenes of the thoughts and what's going on in the dugout. And I tell you, it's something that is just a pleasure to read. And we thank Ron Swoboda for spending 2 full hours last week and this week with us. We're going to continue when we return and continue talking all things baseball. Maybe we'll turn to today's game versus yesterday's game. See what Mr. Swoboda thinks about that. We'll be back right after this, and everything old is new again.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets are...
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Mets are amazing, 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 amazing. They're just finding out now that it's just October, and they found out now around the United States and all the patrons of New York City and Shea Stadium. They are amazing. They'll be amazing, amazing, amazing.
Hi, this is Art Shamsky from the 1969 Mets, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again.
There we go. We're back here on Everything Old is New Again. That's Art Shamsky introducing us right on the heels of Casey Stengel talking about the New York Mets. We are here with teammate of Art Shamsky, Ron Swoboda, who made that catch in the 1969 World Series and did more, had some very key hits in the series, in the playoffs, in that year, of course, platooning with Art Shamsky in right field. The book is Here's the Catch, a memoir of the Miracle Mets and More. And please go to Amazon.com, pick this up. It's great reading. And I'll tell you, it's amazing that after all these years, 50 years later, we still remember, for one reason or another, the 1969 Mets. And boy, they were really a team for the ages, huh?
You know, there was a great expression. Fred Shearer, who coached the Philadelphia Flyers to a couple of Stanley Cups, and before Game 7 of one of them, he wrote on the blackboard, and it's an expression that I can barely get it out of my mouth because it's such a beautiful description of how I feel about that 69 team. He said, guys, win this game tonight, and we walk together forever.
There you go.
And I feel like, as 69 New York Mets, whether we're on this planet or not, we walk together forever.
In success and also in singing on the Ed Sullivan Show, which is a whole other story. Some things you want to remember, some things you don't, right?
You know, it's funny, in all these appearances, occasionally we put out a record, too, and that was, right after we won the World Series, the next day we record this record, and when I sign them now, I always joke with the fan. I said, whoever it is, I said, I'll be happy to sign it, just don't make me listen to it.
Exactly. You guys look so, I don't know to be cruel, just look, you look sort of uncomfortable there singing. Of course, that's out of, if we're talking out of school here, there is a clip now, and you can see.
Good grief, if you look at if you look at our faces, half the guys don't know the words.
Right, exactly. Seaver's looking over. I don't know who's looking over. It doesn't know the words. He's getting upset with them and so forth. It's so funny. Now, you made some great friends on the team. Unfortunately, Tug McGraw has passed away. I know he was a very big friend, a good friend of yours. Crane pulled through here, which was terrific on Long Island, getting a new liver. We wish him all the best.
A new kidney.
A kidney, I'm sorry. A new kidney. I wish him all the best. Tommy
he's doing great, by the way. Thank you.
That's good to hear, because you just saw him a couple of weeks ago, right? And he's doing well. And he did it. He spoke and so forth. So I saw that and was happy to see that.
He was exquisite. His comments when they celebrated us on the 29th at Shea were perfect.
Yes, and you can see that now on YouTube if you want to take a look at that, because it really was moving. It was great to see this.
I like the idea that he talked about us and how we felt and what those times meant, and he brought it all the way around to the team that was today, 2019 team, standing there on the front step. I just thought that was incredible, and he didn't have note one.
Right,
just let it out.
Proving again that everything old is new again. That's
absolutely
self-promotion there. And then, of course, Tommy Agee was a good friend of yours. He's passed away. Yes. Then Cleon Jones, you spoke with him yesterday, is saying, I just want to ask about Cleon for a little bit, because, boy, he had 340 in that year and had some incident here and there with we were taken out of left field with Gil Hodges, walked out, took him out. And how did he feel about that? And I get the sense that he respected Gil for it and maybe learned a lesson. I don't know, but it certainly didn't hurt him.
We all learned a lesson, and that was a momentous time. We're getting beat up by the Astros, who we just couldn't figure out how to play against that year, and they didn't just beat us, they beat the heck out of us. And this was late in the season in August, and they came into Shea and beat us in the first game badly, in the first game of a doubleheader. In the second game of a doubleheader, fourth or fifth inning, they're doing the same thing to us, and a ball got John Edwards hit sliced the ball down the left field line, and Cleon, who was having a little trouble with his ankle and his foot, didn't exactly kill himself to get over there and retrieve it, and he kind of flipped it in, conceding the run to Doug Rader, who was on first base at that time. And I think Hodges, I'm not sure how, in my research for the book, somebody quoted Gil Hodges' wife Joan as saying Gil told her he didn't know exactly what he was up to when he came out of the dugout, but he knew he needed to do something. And Gil popped up out of the dugout after that play, and I'm sure Nolan Ryan was pitching in relief of Gary Gentry, and getting whacked around, and he probably thought, well, that's it for me. And nope, he walked by the pitcher, and Bud Harrelson's at shortstop going, what the hell did I do?
Right.
And then when he walked by Harrelson, everybody knew, something's up here.
Yeah.
And Gil went out there, and it was a long walk and a long conversation out in left field. I never saw anything like it before or since. And basically the conversation between Gil and And Cleon was, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Are you hurt? And he said, no, I'm not hurt. He said, well, the way you went after that ball, you look like you're hurt. I think you're hurt, and you're coming out of this game.
Yeah.
And he took Cleon out, and as you mentioned, he's fighting for a batting championship.
Right.
But that wasn't what was important. It's like effort. And Cleon wasn't, he wasn't a Jake. He was a hustler, but he didn't feel that good, I think. But Hodges said, "You can't play in my outfield if you can't get after the ball like you need to." He took Cleon out and he put me in.
Right.
And I got a couple of base hits in a losing effort, of course. But I started showing Hodges that maybe I had come around, and you know what? That was my big opportunity. With a couple of months left in the season, I got half my RBIs in the process, and really the season that it turned into started from that moment for me.
Isn't that amazing? It's all in the stars sometimes. It's odd, you know?
Yeah, I couldn't get it going early on. I just couldn't get it going, and I couldn't tell you what that was about. I was trying my tail off and just couldn't make it happen.
But somehow that lit the fire, or the light bulb went off with the pressure of that.
Did.
You know,
I mean, we started playing pretty good baseball.
Right.
We were playing pretty good baseball, and I think the message from Hodges was, let's start showing some effort out there, and and he didn't feel like there were too many guys that looked like they minded getting their butts kicked by the Houston Astros. So he went out there and made a point. A lot of what Hodges, the message from Hodges was in what he did more than what he said.
I remember the obituary when he passed away. I listened to the TV that night, and it was something where a gentleman that would never use two words where one would do, describing him. I remember that.
He could be inscrutable about some things. Somebody said, he was a man of few words, but he made his point there.
But also, I think it says something, because I just want to analogize real quick that taking someone out of the game like that in the middle of an inning and from the outfield. The only other one I remember is Reggie Jackson and Billy Martin. And look at that confrontation. But wait a minute, look at what happened with Cleon Jones and Hodges. The way they handled it. Cleon Jones appeared to me, yeah, of course you're upset and in some level embarrassed or what have you. But you know what? He handled it very professionally. He didn't make a big stink. He ran off the field, and he continued thereafter to produce for the Mets. There was no animosity because you took me out.
No.
And so
I
forth,
think Gil made his point, and that was all. That was all that was necessary.
But also, Cleon Jones could have taken it a different way. I give him a lot of credit for the way he handled that. I don't know. That's just
Cleon is a pretty smart guy, and I think he understood what was going down there, and it was Hodges was the authority, and you didn't fight that. If you did at your own hazard.
Well, we all answer to a higher authority sooner or later, whether it be Gil Hodges or sponsors running commercials on Everything Old is New Again. We're going to take a break in a moment and come right back with Ron Swoboda to finish up our second show with the right fielder of the New York Mets, many years, but of course 1969, the World Series New York Mets, the World Series champion New York Mets. The book is a memoir of the Miracle Mets and more. Here's the Catch by Ron Swoboda. It's an absolute pleasure to have him on the show. And if you've missed the last show we had with him, you can find it now on our YouTube channel of Everything Old is New Again radio show, or feel free to go to our website, everythingoldisnewagain.biz. That's everythingoldisnewagain.biz. And you can look up all of our old shows, including the one we had with Ron Swoboda, Art Shamsky, Skip Lockwood, all fellow New York Mets. Anyway, we'll be back right after this on Everything Old is New Again, talking all things life in general. And let's get a little bit more a discussion, I believe, about Cleon Jones and the personalities of the 69 Mets right here on Everything Old is New Again.
Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats.
Now, back to America's entertainment pop culture talk show. Everything Old is New Again, with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Breaking pitches hit in the air down the left field line. Buford Howard is racing over, and he can't get it. He's short hopping. Jones is coming home. There'll be no play at the plate. He scores, and Swoboda goes to second on the throw. The Mets are leading by a score of 4-3. Ron Swoboda.
There it is, Ron Swoboda doing more than just catching the ball. Certainly hitting the ball, was the right fielder of the New York Mets for the World Series. 1969, split the duty with Art Shamsky, who had 300 during the playoffs, I believe, and then for the year and more. And there was Ron Swoboda, and here is Ron Swoboda right here on Everything Old is New Again. We're talking about his book, which is not just about the Mets. It's not just about winning a World Series. It is about and does present a larger picture about life before and after baseball, also in the off season, what went on, what does and do major leaguers do. He crossed paths with a lot of famous individuals, and you'll hear stories about that in this book. It's a memoir of the Miracle Mets and more. Here's the Catch by Ron Swoboda. You can get that on Amazon.com, that's for sure. And I would suggest it's well worth it. He's also making the rounds if you want to take a look at the website or of your local bookstore. Sooner or later he may be there. But if not, he's here on Everything Old is New Again, and he's giving you some great insights. We've had a great time for the last 3 sections of our show this week, and all of the last week's show, 1 hour. Mr. Swoboda was gracious enough to spend some time with us then. We had a great time, and we are having a great time talking about and peeling back the onion of what it's like in the locker room with the 69 Mets and or any baseball team. Also, what's it like when you face adversity as a team and or as an individual, and facing people that as you go through life you may not have gotten along with then, but then you think about it years later and you say, that person was right, and or, gee, I didn't act the right way, my youth got in the way, or my exuberance or ego, whatever it might have been. It's all in this book to give you a real good idea as to what it's like to live a life of success and beyond. And certainly it's important to recognize that Ron Swoboda is not just known for catching the ball once in a World Series or, hitting that double that we just heard. There's much more to this book and to Ron Swoboda. He's been a teammate, and he's been a lifelong friend of many of his teammates. And what's that about? And why is that? And how do you permeate and continue friendships with those who don't agree with you, let's say, on politics, or don't agree with you on other things, but at the core you've shared a certain sensibility and or certain events together, whether it be college, whether it be the World Series, or anything in between that you've shared together. It's real important to foster those friendships and continue with friendships. I mean, I've been friends with David Cohen since we were 16 years old in the late 1970s, and here he is on Everything Old is New Again all these years later. We're beginning in the middle of our 6-year broadcasting. And if you like our show, please do me a favor and write to or call your local talk radio station. Tell them either that you like that it's on, if it's on your station, and if it's not on your station, if you're listening to us on the internet and or on YouTube on older shows, tell them you'd like to have the show on live on every weekend on your local talk radio station. Would be a great idea. A couple of phone calls like that, emails, letters, and we'd be there. And in fact, if you do that, write to us at oldnewagain@aol.com. We'll know that you did that, and we can follow up on that with a telephone call and see if they're interested. Why not? It's a fun show. We're having a great time taking a look at the past and presenting it in the future and here and now. Let's talk about Cleon Jones. I think he was a very underrated player, and what a gentleman Cleon Jones was in the way he dealt with adversity and things on the 69 Mets. Now, was Cleon Jones, in your mind, an underrated player? I mean, especially that year, fighting for the batting title and batting third for the Mets?
Cleon Jones was the best hitter I ever played with, and I played with Tommy Davis, who was a pretty good hitter, in 67, I think, and Cleon Jones was the best hitter I ever played with on a team with the Mets.
And that's what I...
Underrated? Well, if Cleon could have sustained that sort of effort, I thought he should have had a longer career and produced a lot more numbers than he did. But,
I think that trade to the White Sox didn't do him any good either. I didn't think he liked playing in the shorts and all of that. I mean, it was kind of an odd situation, an unfortunate way that the Mets handled him. I thought he could have really helped them for years to come. But,
I don't know. It's like all of us, we all of us, I think, were sort of counterculture a little bit, and in some ways, Cleon, I just know from what I saw from Cleon that he's a guy that could have gotten a couple of hundred hits a year like Pete Rose. If he was able to sustain it, and what he wasn't able to do was sustain his career long enough to really be appreciated as a hitter. He was quite a guy, and to this day has a better idea about hitting than most people you're going to talk to.
There you go. Please send our regards if you can.
I will.
From Everything Old is New Again, and if he ever wants to come on board, I'd love to have a conversation with him as well. But let's continue for 2 more minutes here. You played against Pete Rose, Brooks Robinson, Willie Mays, Frank Robinson, Hank Aaron. I mean, the list goes on. Can we ask, is it possible? Is it impossible? Which one of these players would you think is one that, let's put it this way, if you had to pick a team, which would be the first 1 or 2 picks you would take?
Well, let me put it to you this way. Pete Rose, if you get 200 hits a year for 20 years, you're getting close to him,
Absolutely.
And nobody's going to do that.
Yep.
Pete Rose, when you need a base hit, Pete Rose is the guy you want. He battled every pitch, every at-bat. I feel badly that he's not ever going to be in the Hall of Fame. I had this goofy thought the other day that maybe all those guys, Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, all those guys that were
McGuire,
in trouble for various, McGuire, those guys for the steroids, Pete Rose for his gambling, all of them in the absence of that behavior would be in the Hall of Fame. So maybe what we should have is the miscreant wing, in the Hall of Fame, and you can get in there because you deserve to be in there as a player. We'll excuse the behavior if you'll just admit exactly what you did. We'll let you in the miscreant wing of the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure I'm entirely serious, but it's a thought.
In some way, it makes sense in that he was the player you love to hate. And by the way, forget all that because he was amazing. But when you played
like Mays and all those other guys, Johnny
absolutely.
Bench and Drysdale and Sandy Koufax, you couldn't take your eyes off them.
But here's the thing:
you were a major league player, supposedly on the same level as them, and you couldn't take your eyes off of them because they clearly were playing at a different level,
bigger than life. The other thing, though, I want to say about Pete Rose, though, is I played high school baseball. What is it? But almost every team I played on, manager, just dads and whatever in Little League or, the high school manager, everyone would mention hustle and talk about Pete Rose and how he'd run to first base in a walk and so forth. And that never left me because it doesn't cost you anything to hustle. And boy, you got to admire what he did. I don't think he had the talent level of others, but
as a player, what he could contribute to a game is beyond reproach. What happened to him happened as a manager, and he was gambling on games while he was managing, and that and he never, every time he tried to apologize for it, the only thing missing from his act of contrition, in my humble opinion, was contrition.
Yeah, the sincerity is the only thing missing, right?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you, that's your pick. My pick for the best co-host of Everything Old is New Again goes to Ron Swoboda. You've got to read this book, Here's the Catch, a memoir of the Miracle Mets and more. We've talked about a lot of topics. There's There's a lot more in this book that you will enjoy. It's great reading, great summer reading. Grab this book and go by the pool once in a while. You take a dip, but you may get a sunburn because you're not going to put this thing down. So, long story short,
I call it about 7 trips to the John.
That's another way. That's how I read it. Let's be honest.
Not War and Peace,
But it's great fun. There's also some great illustrations in there, and we've had a great time. Really, Ron Swoboda, thank you so much for spending time and so much time with us on Everything Old is New Again. We look forward possibly to talking to you in the future, and really, what a great time, what a great experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doug, and anytime, man. You know how to reach me.
Sounds
Take care.
great. All right.
Man.
We'll be back next week on Everything Old is New Again, talking all things entertainment, pop culture. Come on back. Everything Old is New Again. New York Mets, 50 years ago.
Where do they go? To meet the Mets!
World champs.
Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the art.
Everything Old is New Again is sponsored by the law office of Douglas Viviani. Douglas Viviani has been providing quality legal service for over 26 years. We're a general practice firm and can handle any legal matter you may have for a reasonable fee. If you're involved in a car accident, starting a business, planning your estate, or need a criminal attorney, please call 631-681-1910 or email us at vivianilaw@aol.com for a free consultation. Get the justice you deserve. Contact the law office of Douglas Viviani at vivianilaw@aol.com.
You've been listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's pop culture entertainment talk show. Find us on the web at everythingoldisnewagain.biz. That's .biz.
See you next week. Same bat time, same bat station.